Well, hello there, watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the columnist for the I, Ian Dunt, and the Spectator's deputy political editor, Katy Balls, both with us from now until just before midnight. Welcome to both of you. So, to the front pages then, there we are, there's the Daily Mirror, congratulating Marcus Rashford on scoring 2 goals in the 3-0 World Cup victory over Wales. The Sun also leads with Rashford's 2 goals, which led the team to that victory against Wales this evening. The big win is also featured on the front of the Star. The paper headlines the hangover, suggesting England fans might be feeling a little woozy tomorrow morning. Daily Telegraph leads with the deepening NHS crisis as ambulance staff prepare to hold the first strike in more than 30 years. The Eye carries census research that shows for the first time in more than 1,500 years, white Christians no longer make up the majority of the UK's population. The FT has word of a possible loosening of British banking regulations, which proponents insist has been made feasible because of Brexit. According to The Times, trials of a drug for dementia patients have revealed that it actively slows the condition. That story also makes the front page of The Guardian. Their headline, New Era of Progress in Alzheimer's Research. The Metro reports on the death of a Russian cryptocurrency tycoon in a helicopter crash. And the Daily Mail warning of a potential Christmas turkey shortage as industry chiefs fear the bird flu crisis may have wiped out half of our free-range egg stock. Well, a reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. So let's go to Ian Dunt and Katy Balls and their favourite subject, Ian, football. The Daily Mirror, for example, bish, rash, bosh, real celebration that Marcus Rashford scored 2 in that performance, although sympathy obviously lies for all Wales fans watching tonight.
Yes, I started to feel a little glimmer of excitement about the World Cup, which is about as much as I've managed over the course of this tournament. It's felt, well, it's all completely wrong, isn't it? I mean, even having it in Qatar is obviously like a moral catastrophe on any number of levels. But just the basic fact that it's happening in winter, that you don't have that core sort of summer feeling of it being out in the pub. If you try and get a sense of, is there a great big World Cup feeling out there? You kind of don't feel it because you're not out in the summer as much. It's cold, it's dark, less people want to go out to the pub. And so it's been a bit of a depressing tournament so far. But actually, today I got moderately excited, which is my absolute high benchmark so far for this tournament.
Well done to you. Lots of others definitely getting excited. Some lovely photographs on the newspapers, including The Guardian, of Gareth Southgate giving Marcus Rashford a real good hug. You know, clear feelings of jubilation there, a sense of calmness. I think they're trying to keep the team calm too. And yeah, there's a real indoor vibe, is there not, Katy, about fans celebrating here in the UK on a cold November night. Some real scenes of celebration. Let's listen. Well, let's see rather than listen. Apologies, no sound on that. But that was the first goal going in East London. I think many fans, as you can see, wearing Rainmax, knowing that some of the beer might be thrown. But Wrexham not quite as happy. Let's take a look at those pictures. Oh, some sadness there, certainly, Katy. But, you know, a lot of people have been saying that at least it keeps politics off the front pages for a while. I'm guessing you're one of those who agrees with that, at least.
Yes, well, I mean, for professional reasons, not always. But Downing Street, I think, are pretty happy when football's on the front page rather than the various problems the government are facing. And then I also think there's something else, which is clearly today with England versus Wales, the first time, they've faced each other in a World Cup match that is, that divides the United Kingdom in terms of who you're supporting. But generally, when you have a team doing well, I think if England keep progressing, it just does boost various things, not just spending, but also I think it just makes people feel more positive generally. And you saw that effect in the Euros. And also just the fact that we're now, although I agree with Ian, the fact this is in winter means it's not quite the same. If you think back to the Euros, that was during lots of COVID restrictions. So it does feel like getting back to normal in terms of some of these sporting events, seeing friends as you watch them.
Yeah, and certainly for England, if we look at the other pictures as well, the Daily Star as well, once again, celebrating Marcus Rashford. He's only 25, isn't he? And already he's got 2 Euros and, this is his second World Cup under his belt. Phil Foden as well, the other goal scorer, only 22. But you feel for the likes of the Welsh side like Gareth Bale in his 30s. Thank goodness someone like him, Ian, managed to get to a World Cup with his talents.
Yes, I mean, if you say so, I don't really have any idea who that person is. I do obviously know who Marcus Rashford is because of politics. It's the basic reason for it. He's probably one of the most accomplished political campaigners that we've had in this country for the last 10 years. Certainly the most successful, and has managed to slay any politician that comes at him, up to and including the Prime Minister. So on that basis, I at least know who that person is and can comment on it.
My producer roundly says that Gareth Bale is the best person or best footballer these islands have produced in a generation. So perhaps you should have a look at who he is. But anyway, brilliant for him that Wales has managed to get to a World Cup for the first time since 1958, and long may that continue. Shall we move on to the I? UK Christians, and this is quite a headline, isn't it, are in the minority for the first time since the Dark Ages. The latest census results, Katy, for England and Wales.
Yes, so the number has dropped ultimately when it comes to UK people who are Christian, and it's down from nearly 60% a decade ago. And lots of coverage today about this. People saying, what does this say? What do we take from this? But I think it also comes down to a thing which is, as a society, are we becoming more secular? As a society, ultimately, what is it that is driving people away from saying they're Christian? And I think what the I highlights in its front page is the fact that the church's views on women's rights, abortion, sexuality all seem to be as factors that have influenced this in terms of what you tick when you're surveyed for this. And I think there is something which is, I think some people would probably, if they had to pick which religious values they had, they might talk about having Christian values, but they would stop short of saying that they were Christian, if that makes sense. Yes,
I think if you asked a slightly different question, if there was one religion to which you felt, most culturally close to or had the values of, it might be Christian. But, the I suggesting, Ian, that other changes, the church's views on women's rights, abortion and sexuality have influenced the decline, which I'm not sure I fully understand. But, does it say much about England and Wales, these figures?
Yeah, I haven't seen any information that would necessarily suggest that it's connected to those social issues. We've been seeing this demographic change for a long time, and it's much more severe than it's coming across in the census. The census has a very leading question in it, which is, what is your religion? Now, you notice if you say that, right, it sort of presumes that you have a religion. It's basically what a pollster would call a leading question. When you don't ask it in that way, for instance, the British Social Attitude Survey says, is there a religion that you belong to? Which is a much stronger form of association and doesn't assume that you're in a religion. Now, it came up with numbers around this level in the mid-40s 10 years ago. So we would presume that actually the level of Christian faith in this country is even lower than we're seeing in the census data. It's not the census's fault, by the way. I mean, the reason they do this is because they're not really interested in faith. They're interested in self-identification. And that's not about faith. That's about ethnicity. It's about your culture. When you ask people, are you Christian? One of the things that they mostly answer is saying, well, my parents were Christians, things like that. It's not really about, did they believe in Christ? Did they believe he was the Son of God? Truth is, you look at this country, this is a profoundly irreligious, secular country. It's one of the most secular countries on earth. It has a huge range of different beliefs in it because of immigration, and it has a lot of people, a massive amount of people that have no faith at all. And it's about time that we started looking at our politics, specifically the role of the monarchy, specifically the bishops in the Lords, and specifically the bizarre cultural traits we have, like Thought for the Day, on the radio in the morning, and start thinking, why on earth do we have these things given the way that the population thinks?
OK, that's interesting, certainly. But moving on to the FT, and this is Brexit and the financial crisis combined in this story, is it not? Post the financial crisis, parts of banking had to be separated. The retail and investment arms had to be ring-fenced. The idea from the government is that this should be relaxed in some way. Katy, tell us more.
Yes. So ultimately, this is the FT reporting comments by Andrew Griffith, a city minister, to an FT conference about how we just discussed so the retail investment split is seen as inefficient. And if this rule change would not actually benefit the largest lenders, it would benefit small lenders in terms of freeing up what they can do. But I think crucially, you can see in how it's being pitched by the government, they're trying to say this is, Big Bang 2.0, but also trying to pitch it as a Brexit freedom. And I think it goes to a desire by the government after weeks, months of ultimately lots of people say, the government has nothing to show of Brexit, which is positive. I think there's been a desire by ministers to try and pitch various things, and you can start to see saying, oh, we are using freedoms. Though, of course, we need to see really how this actually rolls out and if it is such a thing.
Ian, quick one on that, or do you want to move on to the mortgage issue post the Liz Truss mini-budget?
I mean, I would love to just merely say that it has absolutely nothing to do with Brexit, extremely predictably, because any time a minister stands up and says, this is a Brexit benefit, you can bet every dollar that you have on you that it will have absolutely nothing to do with Brexit. We introduced this as a government ourselves in the wake of the financial crash. And the reason we did it is because there are a bunch of retail banks buying up securities. There are a bunch of investment banks selling mortgages that they were packaging up into collateralized debt obligations, and it almost tanked our economy. We've now decided to go the other way, create a massive risk premium on the basis of it, and package it up with a bunch of PR that has absolutely no basis in fact whatsoever.
OK, and the mortgage crisis inside the Times?
Yeah, a slight improvement in mortgages, or so we're told by the Governor of the Bank of England appearing in front of the Lords Economics Committee today. It's put by some as the sort of idiot premium, that because there's more trust in what is going on in government after the departure of Liz Truss, we might see a slight easing down of mortgages, but it's probably going to come too late for about half of the people on fixed rate mortgages who are going to be facing some kind of change in the cost over the next year. So even as it alleviates, it won't necessarily come down starkly or quickly enough to be saving the people who are about to be hit by that financial impact.
OK, lots more stories after the break too. Stay there, both of you. Katy and Ian, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Lots more to come, including trials of a new dementia drug yielding promising results. We will examine that next. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me once again, Ian Dunt and Katy Balls. Welcome back to both of you. So, Katy, let's go to the Daily Telegraph, shall we? News of another union and more strike action. Unison suggesting that some 80,000 of its members supported taking industrial action, and they're talking about paramedics and other ambulance workers and other staff in the NHS as well. So the difficulties of strike action and specifically the NHS continues.
Yes, and ultimately this is just adding to this winter of discontent. Mass strikes we're expecting, and if this does go ahead and there's another ballot tomorrow, ambulance staff, this will be the first time in 30 years ambulance staff have striked. You add to this the fact that if you think about the current ambulance delays, the wait times, already with staff operating on a full basis, there are huge problems. So it's going to only further add to the strain. There's serious concerns in government about whether the NHS can actually, stay up over the winter with all the pressures it's facing. And you also have the nurses plan to strike. And the government for now is holding the line that it is not going to give in terms of these pay demands to the level that they are asking for, saying simply the money is not there. But I think in the face of decisions to, raise pensions, keep the triple lock, benefits in line with inflation, lots of these workers, public sector workers are, thinking that there is actually a possibility that if they press on, they will get this, particularly with the cost of living crisis. So it's really hard to see the resolution. And as ever, when the government is in trouble, in the Telegraph story, you get to the point where they start talking about drafting the army in. I think that can only go so far. So there's some talk about, army members managing to fill in, but it's not going to fix it, particularly when it's the government's go-to, and there's many, many problems coming up in the next few months.
Yeah, I think paragraph 10 is the army in this Telegraph article. But they do talk about altogether about 200,000 health workers are now understood to be backing strikes. 100,000 nurses already set to strike on December the 15th and 20th. It's about pay, the difficulties for the NHS, also about the fact that mainly older patients can't be discharged because there's no one to care for them in the social care sector, more staffing issues there. So what does the government do about all of this then, Ian?
The funny thing is, if you look at elements like actually being able to discharge people from beds, which has an effect not just on the beds themselves, but also on things like A&E, has severe knock-on effects there. This was the kind of thing that when there was a functioning Downing Street and you had sort of delivery unit, strategy unit, policy unit, people thinking through how different parts of the system, for instance, a lack of capacity in social care, would impact on things like A&E waiting times. You could work it down, but none of that was quick. All of that took years. And right now, you look at the situation, that is not something that's going to clear up over this winter. And it's certainly not something that's going to clear up even by the time that we get to the next election. If I was in government, I'd be looking. You might think that people don't like strikes, but what they're really going to see is the fact that they are not safe themselves on the basis of an economy and a public sector that has just simply stopped working under this government's authorship.
Katy, let's go to two newspapers that are leading on news of a breakthrough in Alzheimer's research. The Guardian talks about the dawn of a new era, and The Times is actually talking about a cure, quite extraordinarily, a cure for Alzheimer's. I mean, if so, how extraordinary and how amazing.
Yes, completely. And of course, it's one of those things where you don't get ahead of yourself. This is all based on a clinical trial result. But it's very obvious from both the reports and the data in it that it points to a potential breakthrough. We know in Alzheimer's research that it's been a long journey to try and find ways to treat an illness which is very painful, not just for the person it affects, but for close family as they see their loved ones change before them, and the dangers that come with that in terms of self-sufficiency. And actually, up to this point, there's been a problem where there hasn't really been any significant treatment options. And this is showing, if you're looking at it, what it did is if you had an early stages of this treatment, then it seemed to slow things down. And while at the moment it was, it doesn't fix everything and it is a small improvement, I think the very fact they're saying that there is a potential treatment which is having an effect is a game changer and does open the way to a potential cure in the medium long term if this does continue to be the case and the further research can be done.
Yes, they talk about 27% slowing memory decline over 18 months, but nonetheless, a major improvement. Quick 30 seconds on turkeys in the Daily Mail. Ian, Christmas turkey shortage fear, bird flu crisis wiping out, up to half of our free-range stock, the paper says.
Yes, this is concerning, isn't it? I mean, it's not as bad as if they said that pigs in blankets were going to go through some kind of shortage, because that's basically the highlight of any sane person's Christmas. The turkey thing seems to be a problem, and it certainly seems that the prices of turkeys are going up by virtue of what is happening there. So, yeah, this is another part of our winter of discontent, is the fact that you're not even going to get a turkey at Christmas.
Yeah, well, at least you didn't say Brussels sprouts. I thought you were at one point going to say that was the highlight, but not for most of us. Both of you, see you later. Thank you very much indeed. The very latest in the 11, of course, on that game.